Another day, another story. From poets and presidents to kings and courtesans, find out more about 10 of history's most famous tales of love and loss. Sappho. Much uncertainty surrounds the life story of the celebrated Greek lyric poet Sappho, a woman Plato called the 10th Muse. Born around 610 BC on the island of Lesbos, now part of Greece, she was said to have been married to Cercylas, a wealthy man. Many legends have long existed about Sappho's life, including a prevalent one, now believed to be untrue, that she leapt into the sea to her death because of her unrequited love of a younger man, the sailor Faun. It is not known how much work she published during her lifetime, but by the 8th or 9th century Sappho's known work was limited to quotations made by other authors. Welcome to Tarbo Eminent Channel. In the majority of her poems, Sappho wrote about love. Vatsyayana, author of the Kama Sutra. This ascetic, probably celibate scholar who lived in classical India, around the 5th century AD, is an unlikely candidate to have written history's best-known book on erotic love. Little is known about Vatsyayana's life, but in his famous book, actually a collection of notes on hundreds of years of spiritual wisdom passed down by the ancient sages, he wrote that he intended the Kama Sutra as the ultimate love manual and a tribute to Kama, the Indian god of love. Though it has become famous for its sections on sexual instruction, the book actually deals much more with the pursuit of fulfilling relationships. Shah Jahan. Emperor of India from 1628 to 1658, Shah Jahan has gone down in history for commissioning one of history's most spectacular buildings, the Taj Mahal, in honor of his much-beloved wife. Born Prince Khurram, the fifth son of the Emperor Jahangir of India, he became his father's favored son after leading several successful military campaigns to consolidate his family's empire. As a special honor, Jahangir gave him the title of Shah Jahan, or King of the World. After his father's death in 1627, Shah Jahan won power after a struggle with his brothers, crowning himself emperor at Agra in 1628. Giacomo Casanova. The name Casanova has long since come to conjure up the romantic image of the prototypical libertine and seducer, thanks to the success of Giacomo Casanova's posthumously published 12-volume autobiography, Histoire de ma vie, which chronicled with vivid detail, as well as some exaggeration, his many sexual and romantic exploits in 18th century Europe. Born in Venice in 1725 to actor parents, Casanova was expelled from a seminary for scandalous conduct and embarked on a varied career, including a stint working for a cardinal in Rome, as a violinist, and as a magician, while traveling all around the continent. Fleeing from creditors, he changed his name to Chevalier de Sangol, under which he published a number of literary works, most importantly his autobiography. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. The only child of the famous feminist Mary Wollstonecraft and the philosopher and novelist William Godwin, both influential voices in Romantic-era England, Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin fell in love with the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley when she was only 16. He was 21 and unhappily married. In the summer of 1816, the couple was living with Shelley's friend and fellow poet, the dashing and scandalous Lord Byron, in Byron's villa in Switzerland when Mary came up with the idea for what would become her masterpiece, and one of the most famous novels in history, Frankenstein, 1818. After Shelley's wife committed suicide, he and Mary were married, but public hostility to the match forced them to move to Italy. Richard Wagner. One of history's most revered composers, Richard Wagner set his work on the famous Ring cycle aside in 1858 to work on his most romantic opera, Tristan and Isolde. He was inspired to do so partially because of his thwarted passion for Mathilde Wiesendonck, the wife of a wealthy silk merchant and patron of Wagner's. While at work on the opera, the unhappily married Wagner met Cosima von Bülow, daughter of the celebrated pianist and composer Franz Liszt and wife of Hans von Bülow, one of Liszt's disciples. They later became lovers, and their relationship was an open secret in the music world for several years. Wagner's wife died in 1866, but Cosima was still married and the mother of 2 children with von Bülow, who knew of the relationship and worshipped Wagner's music. He even conducted the premiere of Tristan and Isolde. King Edward VIII. Edward, then Prince of Wales, was introduced to Wallis Simpson in 1931. When she was married to her second husband, they soon began a relationship that would rock Britain's most prominent institutions, Parliament, the monarchy and the Church of England, to their cause. Edward called Simpson, whom others criticised as a financially unstable social climber, the perfect woman. Just months after being crowned king in January 1936, after the death of his father, George V, Edward proposed to Simpson, precipitating a huge scandal and prompting Britain's Prime Minister, Stanley Baldwin, to say he would resign if the marriage went ahead. Not wanting to push his country into an electoral crisis, but unwilling to give Simpson up, Edward made the decision to abdicate the throne. Edith Piaf. Though her life was marked by sickness, tragedy and other hardships from beginning to end, the famous French chanteuse with the throaty voice became the epitome of classic Parisian-style romance for her legions of fans. Born Edith Giovanna Gassian in 1915, she was abandoned by her mother and reared by her grandmother. While traveling with her father, a circus acrobat, she began singing for pennies on the street. Discovered by a cabaret promoter who renamed her Piaf, or Sparrow, and was later brutally murdered, Edith enjoyed a meteoric rise to stardom and by 1935 was singing in the grandest concert halls in Paris. Piaf was married twice, but her great love was the boxer Marcel Cerdan, a world middleweight champion who was killed in a plane crash en route from Europe to New York in 1949. Kathleen Woodiwiss. Born in 1939 in Alexandria, Louisiana, Kathleen Woodiwiss was a young wife and mother when she began writing romantic fiction as a response to her dissatisfaction with the existing women's fiction of the time. In 1972, she published her first novel, The Flame and the Flower, set on a southern plantation in the late 18th century. Its historical setting and theme, florid prose style and steamy sex scenes inspired a legion of imitators, and its smashing commercial success sparked a new boom in romance fiction. Woodiwiss was given credit for inventing the modern romance novel in its current form, thick period melodramas packed with an array of dashing and dangerous men and bosomy women in low-cut dresses. She herself wrote 13 of these so-called bodice rippers, including Shanna, 1977, A Rose in Winter, 1982, Come Love a Stranger, 1984, and The Reluctant Suitor, 2003. Elizabeth Taylor. An actress since early childhood, the dark-haired, violet-eyed Elizabeth Taylor has won 2 Best Actress Oscars, for Butterfield 8 Inches in 1960 and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? In 1966, but is perhaps best known for her rare beauty and her epic love life. She has been married a total of 8 times, twice to the same man, the actor Richard Burton, whom she has called one of the 2 great loves of my life. The first was the film producer Mike Todd, who died in a plane crash in 1958. Taylor and Burton met on the set of Cleopatra. When both were married to other people, their affair soon made headlines around the world and earned a public rebuke from no lesser authority than the Vatican. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.